And now for something completely different. It's been a while since the snow has fallen, and today it's above freezing. You can see that we're starting to get some melt, and I've got the birds out there doing their thing. Unfortunately, today we are learning about bad sections of gutter. You can see that section right there. Stop focusing on me. That section there, how bad that looks. It tilted down at an angle. I wasn't sure if it was the gutter or something else. I had a gutter guy come out and he told me that the fascia behind that is rotten. So he told me we're gonna cut the gutter over here somewhere, and we're gonna take this section of gutter down, and then we're gonna take that siding down, and then we're gonna see how bad the roof looks and determine if we need to call in a professional or if it's just fascia and I can nail in some clean 2x4. So today we're learning about gutters. All right, so at the top of the gutter, this screen looking deal here is called leaf guard, and not everybody has it. However, I do have it and we need it, and I don't want to ruin it. So this stuff is usually held in with a bunch of little screws like that. And this is tough to do with one hand, but save the screws, and then you have to kind of push it. It's got a lip that I'll show you here in a second. We push it in. Now this section of it is under the end of the shingles, and this section you can has that little. All right, so the reason that this piece is hung up is there's a lone roofing nail that was driven through that is holding this in place. All right, so the nail is gone, and now see, this just comes sliding out, and now you can see that edge right there that normally sits inside the edge of the gutter. Now, I'm probably making this a little more difficult than it needs to be, which is kind of typical for me, but there's a couple reasons behind that. Number one, this stuff is all in really good shape, and the gutter guy told me that if I can get it off without bending it up too bad or ruining it, we can reuse it. We won't have to replace it. And since we're looking at over $1,000 to replace this section of gutter, if I can save the leaf guards, I'm gonna do it. All right, so I got about, 12 feet off so far, and looking at the top of it, you can see that right there. Now, this doesn't help that it's full of ice right now, and I was hoping it was going to be more melted, but you can see the whole way down. This is the problem right there. There's nothing for the screws to bite into because the wood is just completely rotten. All right, so we've got the gutter guard off the whole way, and we're back here. This is probably the worst spot. Now, the roof is only 5 years old. The gutters, we assumed when we bought the house, were put on at the same time, although we didn't get a receipt for that, so I can't prove it. But you can see, if you look at the spacing on the supports, there's two doubled up there, but for the most part, they're about every 2 feet going the whole way down. And then here, this section where it's really rotted out, they doubled them up. So when the gutters were hung, whoever did this knew that they were doing something they shouldn't have. And I don't know if you can see back there, but it's pretty well rotted out. it's in bad shape. So I'm going to try and get some of this ice out. I've got some of it out already. See if we can get some of the weight off of this. And if I can get it out, then we'll make a cut up here and try and take this piece down in one section without ruining it. The reason for that is because I do have the intention of putting water collection, and I'm going to build a roof on top of this guy, and that's going to be water collection. So if I can get free gutter, I'm going to do it. So this is not quite the middle part of the house, but we've got an overlapping section, a drip rail here. There's 2 supports. There's another one here. We're going to go ahead and cut the gutter in half at this point. I cleared all the ice out, the entire gutter. There's a whole lot of comp shingle in here, probably a ½ inch. I'm sure that all the extra weight didn't help with this thing not draining and continuing to rip out the roof. So anyhow, I'm gonna cut this in between these 2 supports so that this far end will still have support here, and we'll go from there. Now, this could probably be cut pretty easy with a Sawzall, but I don't have a cordless Sawzall and I'm not gonna buy one. I do have a pair of tin snips though, so let's get to it. All right, so this is cut out. This is completely loose at this point. These braces are wrapped around the backside of the gutter right here. You can't just, and then they go under here. So that's how they support. These are just long screws. You have to kind of pop the edge of the drip edge up to be able to get to it, but it's just a 1/4 inch screw. I just pulled out this screw right here, which is the 5th one, and you can see now that all ripped out. None of those were holding anything at all, and that sucks because I need to try and keep this piece of siding in good shape. Anyway, fun stuff. And again, down here a little further, you can see that somebody knew they had problems because there's extra screws in here where there are no supports. So they knew that these weren't grabbing, and they tried to put it back together long enough to sell me their house. All right, well, I suppose now we're going to learn about siding. This Z-flashing bent in one spot, but I can probably fix that. The rest of it is still straight, but I need to keep that in good shape as I get it out. So there's going to be nails in the bottom there, and then I guess I'll try and slide it this way. The other piece of siding just pops up in, kind of hard to see, but there's a little gap on the edge of that it can slide into. So we got to be careful, take all these nails out without bending the siding too much, and then pop that piece of Z-flashing out without bending it, and then I can pull down that outer trim piece and get a better look at what we got going on. It is another day. I got a little bit of work done yesterday at the end of the day, and kind of an update here. So you can see I got the drip rail off the edge of the house, and that plastic stuff is what the flashing presses into. I'll see if I can give you a better. This is nailed on. The flashing presses into this little gap right here. This is the drip rail. Basically sits like this on the edge of the roof to prevent water from getting right down onto the edge of your plywood. I had to take all that off because of the way the roof is put together. So you can see that this piece is stapled into this little trim piece. Well, the problem is that from the top where the drip edge is stapled in, it's stapled into this same board as well. So like over here where that board is completely gone, it's all rotted out. I mean, you can see this stuff's toast. So in order to replace that board, I have to pull the drip edge, and then I have to pull that plastic piece that's stapled into it, and then I'll be able to get those off of there. Continuing to progress here, I've got one coat of primer sealer on all that. I got to put another one up. These old fascia boards are all split and down, and new fascia boards here. Got the first side primed. Probably go ahead and flip them and redo them, do the other side, and I got to get another coat on this, and then we'll start hanging them.